Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our multi-chamber networking event. I'm your co-host, Tom Osa, and we have many chambers of commerce here in this the beginning of what I think is going to be a great business season for many businesses in Rockland County, and notably the ones that are aligned with the various chambers of commerce of Rockland County. We have a really exciting agenda today. We've been working on it for several weeks, and we have a keynote speaker that I've known for over a decade now, and some of you I'm sure you know, and I'll introduce him momentarily. But let me just bring up today's agenda very briefly. We're just going to introduce each of the chambers of commerce. We're going to do a brief thank you to each of our sponsors that have been kind enough to support this event. And then we're going to introduce our keynote speaker. At the end of the keynote speaking, you will be provided a brief poll, and it's aligned with what our keynote speaker is talking about today. So we just wanted to get some anonymous information back. Just let us know, what you think that you can do to, and this is the topic of the day, pivot your company, your organization, or your cause to success in 2021. So before anything, let me just introduce the various chambers of commerce that are with us in the Chamber Alliance of Rockland. Just as a background about the Chamber Alliance, we formed several years ago, and our goal really is not to have one chamber of commerce. It's really to have a common ground where all the chambers of commerce of Rockland County can collaborate together on various issues, various business challenges and organization challenges that we all face on a day-to-day basis, and of course to network with our colleagues. And if you've been in the networking space for a while, you know that networking not only brings good camaraderie, but in many cases it brings very good revenue and profits as you learn to grow your network. So the various chambers of commerce in Rockland County, we have those listed here. We have the Nanuet Chamber of Commerce, and George Malo and Susan Faris are here. Thank you for being with us, guys. We have the New City Chamber of Commerce, North Rockland Chamber of Commerce, Nyack Chamber of Commerce, Pearl River, Piermont, Sloatsburg, and Suffern Chambers of Commerce. And I'm pleased to mention that in a few months, we're also going to have a brand new Chamber of Commerce, the Spring Valley Chamber of Commerce. And the way that I look at it, the more the merrier, because it's good networking and it's good business for us to work back and forth with each other. I would be behest to not mention our sponsors that have been very helpful in putting on this event. I'd just like to share my screen one more time and show you three of our silver sponsors, and then I'm going to introduce our gold sponsor for the event. First of all, we have Dana Pest Control, located in Tompkins Cove, New York. For 3 generations, they've been helping families, homes, residential areas, and commercial areas be free of pests across the board. No humans. You can't get rid of your relatives through this service. But you can get rid of pests that might be affecting your home or your commercial location. And again, it's 3rd generation family-owned business. We have FJ Detoma Construction. They've been in business since 1987, turning your dream home into a reality. They assist with both residential and commercial construction of properties of all shapes and sizes across Rockland County. And finally, we have Yabu Fence Company, established in 1965, cutting-edge solutions for all your fencing needs, and they provide a variety of fencing solutions, not just for residential, but for commercial facilities as far-ranging as, a good example locally is Rockland Boulder Stadium. They provided the fencing for around that facility and many other commercial areas in Rockland County and across the New York and the tri-state area. But without further ado, I want to introduce our gold sponsor for this event, and that is Pink Home Solutions. And I'm just going to share my screen one more time. They're affiliates of Pink Houses of America, LLC, and they are a national reaching organization, and we'll have someone introduce themselves momentarily to talk about it a little bit more. But they help homeowners to be able to or people to apply to become homeowners and be able to really do some great things to achieve that dream of home ownership. So I'll turn that over to both Michael Harding and his co-host, Rob Kenneth. Rob, thanks for joining us, and please feel free to hop on.
Tom, a pleasure. Thank you so much. And we greatly appreciate your having us on the webinar or the Zoomcast today.
Awesome, awesome. Besides the website, pinkhomesolutions.com, is there anything else that you'd like to mention that would be beneficial for the attendees today?
Yeah, thank you. So we happen to be the fastest growing investment real estate company in America. We're 85 strong. We have a niche in the market. We're working closely with Michael Harding. I was going to say, it almost feels like the show of To Tell the Truth. Will the real Michael Harding please stand up? And Michael is the one who just put his fingers up. So we've got 85 plus affiliates throughout the country, 3 in Canada, 1 in Hawaii. We have a niche. We create homeowners. We work hand in hand oftentimes with real estate agents and brokers. We've got an exciting executive dynamic program called Executive Lease Purchase. It's a purchase program. They're fully vetted, and we're killing the market. I mean, we love this market, and Michael is one of our top producers in the New York Hudson area. So we're both proud and privileged to be with him. Thank you.
That's great. Well, thank you very much, Rob, and Michael also. I know you're you and I talk on a weekly basis, so it's good to have you on the meeting there. Hey, Michael.
I just want to say hi, and I'm excited to work with everyone in the Hudson Valley and just bring our product to this wonderful market.
Hey, great. Thanks for joining us today, and I look forward to talking with you later in the week as well. So hopefully we'll have a nice conversation as we usually do. So.
Yes, we do.
All right. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker for today. So Carlo Pellegrini is our keynote speaker. Let me just share my screen one more time before I turn it over to him. So Carlo Pellegrini is the founder of Amazing Grace Circus. And I'll let him talk a little bit more about the structure of the circus, but it was founded, about 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago, and in a timely fashion, right around the events of September 11th, 2001, a terrible day for especially us in New York, but a national tragedy. So for many, many years, Carlo and his team has been helping to really just create hope in this area. And Carlo's joining us remotely from out of state, but just a few things about him. I met Carlo during a keynote speaking that he was doing for a networking meeting for us back in 2007 with a networking group that's still in existence today, ProMetronet, and just mesmerized us. Just absolutely amazing presentation. No pressure, Carlo.
I paid him a lot of money to say that.
Yeah. Thank you for the check. And other things that Carlo does. Carlo was also in the, I don't know if nostalgic wise, was in the movie with Robin Williams in 1980, Popeye, which you were Swifty the cook, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I was the short order cook. I made all the hamburgers for Wimpy.
Page on Tuesday sort of thing, I imagine.
Exactly. I'm still waiting.
That's great. So and Carl is just a wonderful guy. Fellowship of Reconciliation, if I'm correct, in Nyack. I think you were affiliated with them for some time, and I thought that Carlo would be the perfect person to really just help us to pivot towards success in 2021. So without further ado, Carlo Pellegrini, and look forward to hearing everything that you have to say.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, George, for inviting me to this hallowed organization. And thank you, sponsors, for sponsoring this. That's very important for that collaboration in the community. So I'll give you a quick background on my life, and it'll take no more than 30 seconds. When I was 18, I ran away from home and joined a circus. Yes, you heard that right. I'm the last living person to be able to do that. And 50 years later, here I am still doing circus, working with kids. My wife and I own our own circus tent. We tour with our own show, and it's a very exciting life. But before I ran away, I went to my college professor, my dean, and I said, I'd like to have college credit for this. And the dean said, sure, yeah, that's a great idea. This was 1972, long before anybody took a gap year in college. And I spent a year on the road, traveling with a small troupe, the world's smallest circus, from the world's smallest country, Liechtenstein, performed by the world's smallest minds. We hit 365 cities in the country in 9 months, and went back to my dean, my professor, and said, so I'd like my college credit now. And he said, we were thinking about that, and no. And it was my first lesson in contract law. I didn't have anything in writing. So that led to a career as a professional dancer. And then many years later, advertising, and then the events of 9/11 happened. And the hard thing about that moment was our lack of preparation for it. We live a very privileged life here in the United States compared to other countries, I believe. And it was a shock to everyone's system. Now, I was running a youth group at Grace Church in Nyack at the time, and our teenagers decided they wanted to do something for our community who had lost members in the towers. And they knew my background in circus, and they said, can we put on a circus show? And I said, sure. Always say yes, right? And we did that. We raised a few $1,000s. We gave it to the families who had kids as scholarships for their families to go to college. And that was supposed to be the end of it. And then a parishioner said, can you run a summer camp for us for a week? Yeah, sure. Yes, always say yes. So we ran a camp for a week. That should have been the end of it. And then somebody else said, can you do a couple of classes for us during the school year? One thing after another, 20 years later almost. And we've worked with every school in Rockland County, teaching our brand of circus arts to the kids, which always has the underbase of the word circus, which means in our language, confidence, imagination, respect, cooperation, understanding, which all leads to success. That was the first time I realized that pivoting could have an impact. What Tom just put up on the screen is me as guest ringmaster with the Royal Hannaford Circus at the White Plains Convention Center. That was about 5 years ago, I think. This is one of our last remaining circuses in the country that tours as 3 rings. That was the last show in which elephants were allowed to be seen in New York State. And that was an honor and privilege that many people don't get, to stand in the center ring, not only with beautifully costumed people, but in that very famous circus. The topic that I want to cover today is one phrase: hindsight in 2020. Now, we always say hindsight's 2020, but last year was a tough year for everybody. And for some people, it was a great year. Some people lived, some people died, unfortunately. Our country went into a complete upheaval. And at every turn, there was an opportunity to move this direction or that direction, or take advantage of a situation, or think differently about the situation you found yourself in. Now, I know all of you have businesses locally, and for each of you, the story is different. For each of you, that story takes on its own dimensions of fear, anxiety, disbelief, success. Some of these words are going to resonate. Some of them you just want to forget about and just let 2020 be. Yesterday, I was reading in the Rockland County Business Journal that they featured 3 companies in Rockland County that pivoted. And one of them in particular caught my eye was Urban Electric Power, UEP. I don't know if any of you know them. They create batteries with a certain type of gel. And they have 25 employees. And as the article said, what were they going to do? So they sat down wanting to save their business. And they said, well, what can the gel be used for? Turns out the gel could be used for hand sanitizer. They got so busy, they're on back order through the middle of 2021. Nice success story. Sometimes it didn't go so well for other companies. When March 14th hit in 2020, my wife and I had a decision to make. Do we keep our circus school open or do we close it? Do we take the PPP loans or not? And the only way to make a judgment like that, as many of you have found, is to do a complete analysis, a SWOT analysis of your business and decide where you sit in the middle of that, right at that moment, and then look ahead. So the first strategy that I want to share with you is vision. Now, if you've worked with a nonprofit or even with some of your own companies that have boards of directors, you need to have a mission statement and a vision statement. But my wife and I sat down and closed our eyes, and we envisioned what it would be like to continue the circus school for kids or stop the circus school. And we just decided it was better to stop and refocus our efforts on the performing aspect of our business, for which we had an 18-week tour booked in the summer of 2020, which went up in smoke on March 14th. Our story isn't the only story like that. You all have your own stories. And this is the basis of what I believe the chambers do, which is tell the best story possible for its members. Now, I have a small advantage, and Tom knows. I was the Nyack Chamber of Commerce Board President for about 8 years. This was many years ago. And I had another pivot to make happen. The chamber was actually bankrupt when I took it over. Now, people don't like talking about finances like that, but I don't mind sharing it with this group because we all face financial difficulties when it comes to chambers of commerce. How do we raise more money? How do we get sponsors to support our programs? How do we get people to attend our street fairs? How do we charge? It's what moves us. We're not looking to make a fortune. We're looking to serve our community. But at that point in time, we were overextended. I won't tell you how much, but it was as much that my accountant said, let's just declare bankruptcy and call it a day. And I said, I can't do that. Not on my watch, not as the president. So it was a 4-year journey of pivoting. And we eventually got out of the hole. I left them with a lot of cash in the bank. And under Scott Baird's and Roger Cohen's guidance, they're doing great things for Nyack once again. But that moment, when a friend of mine, and not only my accountant, said, why are you doing that? Just declare bankruptcy. It's so much easier. You'll never get out of the hole. And they just didn't know me, like they don't know many of you. We're dogs with bones. We don't let go when we see the opportunity to make a change. And that's what I really strongly believe chambers of commerce do. They make change, they work with what they have, and they serve the members like you to move forward, constantly moving forward. I'll give another example of on March 14th, when my wife and I were revisioning. 2 weeks later, I came up with an idea for a children's TV show. It's called Mr. Amazing Circus Corner. And we ran it for 11 weeks on Zoom. We had 100 kids attending every week, 2 shows on Wednesdays, 4 and 7. And my wife just kept looking at me like I need to have my head examined, fully supporting it, but saying, do we continue? How do we keep serving people? Is this going to move us forward? And again, I think the answer to all of this is simply saying yes. Just by show of hands, how many of you have ever done any improv, acting improv? Or you can even do a raise hand, your click. Okay, so a few of you have. You know that in that improv situation, the word that goes off in your head always when you're working with a partner is yes and. Never no but. So the yes and gives everyone the courage to keep moving forward. Move the story forward. It's a great old advertising adage as well. Move the story forward. Tom mentioned that I performed in the movie Popeye with Robin Williams. And it was a great experience. But the most horrifying part of that time in the movie was on talent nights. We would have, because we were on the island of Malta, and well, let's say that we were bored. I know it's the film business. Who could be bored in the film business? But as all the older guys in the cast said to me, and I was a newbie, they said, Guy, if you're in the film business, you're paid to be bored because everybody just sits around. And that's exactly what happens. So they're sitting around playing cards, sitting around telling jokes, talk about old cronies telling stories. I mean, there were hours to sit around. And so finally somebody said, let's have a night where we do improv. And now I want to frame this the right way. All the cast members were stars in their own right from Los Angeles. These were very funny comedians of the time, 1979, 1980. And I was just a poor juggler dancer. I mean, what did I know? I wasn't an improv actor. So I knew my place among them. I either got up first and improv and got it out of the way, or sat in the back and stewed all night and then came up at the end. Neither slot was a good choice for me. So I decided to get it over with. And I stood up first, volunteered. And who do you think stood up second to volunteer with me? Robin Williams. This was my worst nightmare. And all I could think of was no, 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 the exact opposite of what you want. You want to say yes. How do you say yes to Robin Williams, the fastest brain on earth at the time? So he was a very kind man. I was paralyzed. One of the first times in my life, I couldn't pivot. And it was a terrible feeling to not be able to just turn it around fast. And I learned a lot from it. He was very generous. He just kept whispering in my ear, just say yes, just say yes, just say yes. And I got it. I learned. But it was a very hard lesson to learn. Since that time, I don't think I've missed an opportunity to pivot. Because what choice do you have? You either go backwards or you lose what you have. And that's not a great option. So pivoting in my generation was called reinvention. So I'm a few years short, a couple of years short of 70. And I have a lot of friends in my age category who have said they've reinvented themselves at least 4 or 5 times. And I can verify that I've done that. But in this day and age, turning around and looking at the resources you have at hand is really the key. That's the key strategy, right? Like UEP, they had a gel. It was perfect for hand sanitizer. They pivoted. Restaurants that I know pivoted to takeout and delivery and immediately putting in those 6-foot acrylic separators. Everybody's done their part to do that. So I want to summarize the strategies by saying the first one, and I can only do this, and I apologize ahead of time. Everything to me is juggling, right? I've been in the circus for 50 years. I've done keynote speeches for groups of 2,000 salespeople at a time. And I always ask this one question: how many different balls are you juggling in your business? Right? So as we move forward into 2021, the first ball I want to share with you is visioning. If you haven't taken the time yet to sit down and reflect, with no distractions, no kids, no dogs, for at least 2 hours. The first hour, you're just going to daydream on the couch. The second hour is when things really start happening. And I'm very serious about this. You need to daydream. If you fall asleep, start over again. You probably needed the nap. So if you can see it in your mind, you can do it. But your mind has to be relaxed. So this is the first ball we juggle. The second ball we juggle is planning. Now, an idea without a plan is just a thought. Doesn't serve you till you put a framework around it. And if we can plan, then you have results. Now, we all know that, but in the day-to-day business of keeping things moving forward and saying yes to our own success, we forget it sometimes because we've been in our businesses a long time. We think we know what our business is all about. But in order to act differently, you have to think differently, change a couple of behaviors. And it doesn't take much. Research has shown in neuroscience that in order to change a behavior, it only takes a 2% shift. You don't have to change your whole life. You just have to change a little bit of what you do and how you do it in order to make a difference. This is very important to know because we hold ourselves back. I know in the past I've held myself back. Oh, you know, I really want to write a book. Well, how do you write a book? Well, you write a few notes. Maybe you write a chapter. Does the book ever get done? Some people do complete books. By the time I come back here next year, I will have completed my book. I'm going to have to take my own advice. The third step and the third strategy is collaboration. Now, when you collaborate with your staff, that's one thing. But when you collaborate with other chamber members and other chamber conferences, that's another thing. When I ran the Nyack Chamber, the first thing I did was reach out to community members and other chambers who I felt had some of the other issues that we were having. And nobody had done that up to that point. I'm so excited that you guys have an alliance where you all talk about these strategies together and compare notes. Back when I was running this, everybody wanted to stay separate. Don't talk to me. I don't want to, don't do that. Don't talk about your business with anybody else. Look, we're all facing the same thing, right? We all have a vision for ourselves. We all have to plan, and we all have to collaborate or nothing gets done. Now, let me just demonstrate. It's probably easier to do that. When you're working by yourself in a vacuum, it's lonely. You could get thrown curves now and then, toss ideas back and forth. That's okay. That's good. Things get a little more complicated when you add a second ball. There's always a balance to be struck, some way to manage those balls. The key to all this, though, is identifying how many balls you have and only 2 hands to juggle them. Now look, everybody juggles. It's just a matter of how many balls and how well. So vision, planning, and collaboration work together in a synchronized mesh that make life easier and raises everybody up. You just have to figure out exactly where you fit in. Think about it. Even gravity has its place in juggling. You are looking at a way to make the balls make sense. And in your story of saying yes, there are going to be people on the left, people on the right, and people in the middle. Now, the people over here on the left, they don't often understand the people on the right. And the people on the right don't often understand the people on the left. And the people in the middle, well, they get hit by both sides. So we try to get around all that, but that crosses everything up. The key is the story. Keep moving the story forward. Because why? Well, we all want to get ahead, right? That's gravity to let you know there are no strings attached. In getting ahead, we help the others as well, until everybody wants to be on top. I'm going to leave you with a thought. Our goal as chamber members, as business people, is to have the vision, make the plan, collaborate, and find balance where there was none. In order to do that, you're going to have to take some risks. Be open to new ideas and new ways to get your job done. So, I want to thank you for paying attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
For those of you that have questions, please add them to the question and answer section of Zoom. And just to summarize Carlo's points, first is to refine your vision for 2 solid hours. If the first hour is on the couch, that's cool, but you want to think about what you're trying to accomplish. Create a plan. Remember to create collaboration. And finally, find your balance. And we have a question from an audience member. What suggestions for collaboration do you have for a one-person run business? Solopreneur, if you will.
That's a great question. The first, I'm a solopreneur, right? So the Juggling Matrix, my keynote speaking business, I was by myself in my office for 15 years, talking to the biggest corporations in America, actually around the world. And the thing that I found most helpful was going to these chamber mixers. I mean, the first one was scary because I didn't know anybody. I traveled around the world for years. I never really got to know my community in Nyack until the recession, 93, 94, 95. And then 2001, nobody was having meetings anymore. So my business died for 3 years. And that's when I found Rotary. I found the Chamber. I found Rockland Parent Child Center. And I joined Grace Episcopal Church to meet people. So as a solopreneur, you have lots of resources, especially at the Chamber. The mixers are great. I mean, the online Zoom mixers at this point, in person. And it depends on what you need. Asking people, let me share this. There was a woman years ago named Carol Hyatt. She was a speaker on the circuit. And I would listen to her often. We were on the same speaking circuit. And she had a rule of 3, Carol Hyatt's rule of 3. She said, tell somebody what you want. They're going to tell somebody else what you want. And then they're going to tell somebody else what you want. Stay in touch with all of them. You'll get what you want. And it really does work. That's my suggestion.
Nice, thank you. See if we have any other questions coming in. Perfect way to, someone wrote in, I don't know who it was, but perfect way to answer the benefits of joining a Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, whoever mentioned it. They can assist in promoting local business. So that's great, absolutely. And Carl, I think, and I'm not sure if I have the right person, but our paths have crossed several times. Were you and I both in the water during that Nyack tsunami that happened? Remember when the waters were coming down? Was that you and me trying to like get everybody to dry land?
Yes, yes. That, if you recall, it happened twice, but we were in the first one.
Yeah.
I think it was June 6th. Nyack had the sewers open for some kind of work they were doing. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, there was a downpour. And we were up to our waists in water. The farmer's market was happening in the parking lot, destroyed all the farmers' tents. Tom Chapin was our singer that day,
Yeah.
destroyed all of his musical instruments and equipment. That was a freakish day.
Yeah, and it happened out of nowhere, no warning whatsoever. It's just immediately, like within minutes. It was unbelievable.
5 minutes, there was 8 inches of water just came out of the sky. And then because we're downhill on Main Street, it picked up momentum and just took everything down to the river. It was crazy, crazy day. Yes.
I had a friend with me at that time, and you know, we got to dry land, but you and I, we hopped in the water to get some equipment out. You know, we were up to I'd say at least our knees, and then afterwards, you were kind enough to let us dry off in the chamber office at the time. So thank you for that. The only thing that I had going through my mind while we're in the water, because it was a little bit of thunder and lightning, it's like, all right, well, at least it'll be quick if anything happens. So, but definitely, it was good to be in the water with you, man. You know. So
Thank you. You too.
yeah.
Tom, someone raised their hand.
Oh, okay. Nancy, Nancy, you had a question? Let me just should be able to talk now if you wanted to unmute. You had a question,
Okay.
Nancy? Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, it's Nancy Phillips, and I'm a veteran of the Nyack Chamber of Commerce, you know, for like about 12 years. And in fact, Carlo recruited me. I will never forget it. One day in a bar in Nyack, we met and he said, "Oh, do you want to be on the Chamber of Commerce?" So anyway, so it's been a great experience, and there's so much we can do. And I have put in many hours working with great people, including Carlo, you know, in Nyack. So one question I do have, which is I think a challenge for all the chambers, is you know, and maybe it goes back to the single entrepreneur question, but you know, how do we continue our work with absolutely no money? I mean, we are, you know, the big revenue generators in Nyack were street fairs, mainly street fairs, but other events where we were able to generate significant amounts of money that allowed us to take that money and you know, advertise the village, put on, you know, radio commercials, all kinds of ways to promote the village. But now we can't have street fairs. We can't have events the way we used to. So I would, you know, so I'm sitting here and I'm going to spend the 2 hours to say like, okay, so what do we do now? And we have been doing things, you know, for the past year, but I would love to hear what anyone, Carlo has to say, but what anybody else has to say about how we get through this period of no money and lots to do.
Guess to you, Carlo, first, and then if anybody else would like to raise their hand and mention, I'll bring you on camera for that. Thank you, Nancy.
First of all, Nancy's right. We did meet in the bar, but she's one of the great public relations professionals in our business. Before the chamber, she had her own business. I think sold it and then was kind of hanging out looking for something to do. And I said, "Yep, I'm going to recruit you." I think since this time is so unusual, you know, when we had no money with the chamber because, you know, we were in the hole, the idea was to negotiate with vendors and ask people for free stuff, ask them to do things for free, to volunteer, to beg. I was on my knees a number of times with retailers, asking them to do things that they just didn't want to do. You ask enough and people start saying yes. So how do you raise money in this period? I think you have to ask for it. Even if the budgets have been slashed, your membership is down. And I'll give you a quick example. In the American Youth Circus organization, I sit on the board of directors. It's the national organization for youth circus teachers and trainers. And we face the same question. Membership is $200 a year. Who's got that? So we slashed it in half and said, we'll take a hit because everybody's taking a hit. And then we came up with a sliding scale. Our membership is up 40%. We're not back at the budget level that we were, but in 3 years we will be, because we created goodwill at this moment in time. We also created an online seminar in which all the directors can get on every Monday at 2 p.m. and talk about the issues they're having. So every circus director in the country, there's over 400 of them, get on every Monday at 2 p.m. and we talk about stuff. And then we have the minutes, and it's not an official anything. It's just who's got an idea about how to handle kids up in the air. Can we go back in person? Can we do a street fair? Can we do a modified street fair? Can we do a one-block street fair? Those are just some ideas. And really, I think everybody has to get into a brainstorming mindset and figure out which are the important balls you're going to juggle now.
Mm-hmm. And I would imagine, Carlo, that because the balls that we're going to juggle, they may be different from the balls that we've been traditionally thinking were needed to be kept up in the air. Some of them may drop off, and others would be prioritized as more important.
So in the world of juggling, the most important thing a juggler can learn to do is drop their balls gracefully and recover gracefully. We're in the recover period. How do we gracefully pick up all the balls that have been dropped? And they're different balls now too. They have different issues. How do we gracefully do that? And with our members in mind, how do we serve them? Well, what do they need? Maybe we need to do a survey, find out what they need, and then give them as much of that as we can. It means that the boards are going to devote more time than they already have. And that's asking a lot, because everybody here knows how much time you put in. Mm-hmm. But maybe it's going to mean that time needs to be more effective.
Someone raised another question, Tom.
Yeah, we have another individual that asked, there are business members here who are not part of a chamber, there are business members here who aren't part of a chamber or a chamber board. I guess that's the way that we're phrasing it. What do you recommend they can do to initiate collaborations and keep the momentum going? And before you answer that, Carl, let me just mention, after this webinar is done, we're going to be sending out an email thanking you all for being here. If there's anyone here that is not a member of their local Chamber of Commerce, we will be providing links to your local Chamber of Commerce where you can join. And I got to tell you, the price for joining any of the Chamber of Commerce, any of the Chambers of Commerce in Rockland County are very, very nominal. And I mean, in our Chamber of Commerce, we have a little joke. We say it's less expensive than Netflix, but more valuable than LinkedIn. So for less, sometimes you get it for very inexpensive, but what you get back is just wonderful. That's the end of my commercial. Carlo, back to you.
I think the first thing you do, if you're not part of a chamber, is join. You got to be in it to win it and to participate in the benefits. Volunteer for something. You've got an expertise. You know what your capabilities are, and you may not know what your capabilities are until somebody on a board says, hey, could you manage this for us? Or, hey, you're a really fast typer. We need some data entry. Any little thing that you can offer at the table is welcome, because we need that right now. You need that right now. And if you want to be engaged, you've got to engage. I had a saying at Grace Church when I first joined. Well, you know how this works, right? You just go up to the usher and you say, hey, I'm new. Well, It works that way. They take it from there. You just have to say, hey, I'm new. What can I do? Don't be shy. Say yes.
Any other questions for Carlo? Okay. Oh, might have one more. Oh, actually, this was the one from before. Okay, great. Well, Carlo, I want to thank you for being here today. It was fun working with you over the last few weeks as we kind of shaped this presentation for our chamber members and guests, and I really appreciate it. And you know what? You haven't lost a step. As a matter of fact, I watched you, 13 years ago, 14 years ago, and it's even better now. How about that?
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time and talents.
You can learn more about Carlo at amazinggracecircus.org. A lot of information, and if you'd like to get involved, there's some information on there. It's a great way to contact him and such. I should also mention that we're going to do a poll momentarily, and at the end of this, I'm going to give you a few upcoming events that various chambers of commerce have mentioned are coming up. Spring is looking good. Spring is looking really good, I'll say that. So we're going to launch a very brief poll. Just take about a minute to answer the questions. There's only 4, and we're going to launch the polling right now. While that's going on, I'm just going to bring up the screen for the upcoming events that we have with our various chambers of commerce.
Tom, if I can interject, the art show is now March 19th through April 2nd at the Palisades Mall. And our website will have a map of that location and the listing of the stores where it'll be displayed. We'll have a ribbon cutting opening on Saturday, March 20th at noon at the Macy's first level.
Gotcha.
And we'll be updating our websites.
March 20th?
March 20th will be the ribbon cutting, but the artwork will be on display the late afternoon of March 19th through April 2nd.
Okay, roger that. We'll see about being there myself at said ribbon cutting.
Great.
Appreciate all you guys do. All right, we have 10 of 18 individuals that voted. We're just going to wait a few more moments just to go through this. All right, just 4 questions, and if if there's anything that you see that piques your interest, please answer it. Okay, so here's our results. Okay, so the first question is, what is one area of your company, organization, or cause that you could focus on in 2021 to pivot towards success? 50% of you said adjust my business plan or create it. Better advertising, 20% of you. A better focus on day-to-day operations, 10%. Structure my time better, 10%. Seek a better customer base. That was my covert way of saying fire some of your customers and find new ones, because I'm sure we all deal with, oh, okay, the customer's always right. Oh, madon. But they're all good customers, of course. How much time are you willing to devote toward that one thing, that one area of your company that you want to enhance? I was really happy to say that 40% of you identified what Carlo had encouraged, 2 hours. 10% said 1 hour, but that's okay. I mean, it might be 1 hour just hanging out and then 1 hour envisioning what you want to accomplish. And then several of you went for the gusto, 10% 3 hours, 10% 4 hours, 20% said they would work on it for a solid day. That's admirable, and I think that your time will be well spent in that endeavor. And one person said a solid week. Kudos. Do you have the right people to help you in this effort? the 80-20 rule. 80% of you said yes, 20% of you said no. All right, and for those 20%, I would encourage you to go out and find that help that you're looking for, and it could be, a new staff member, or it could be a network associate, it could be a professional that can help you to accomplish your objectives. Absolutely, please go get on that immediately. And finally, are you engaged with your local Chamber of Commerce to provide you resources to help grow your company, organization, or cause? And I'm happy to say 90% of you said yes. We had 10% that said no, but the good news is that after this entire webinar is done momentarily, we will be sending out an email with ways of being able to join your local Chamber of Commerce. And please share it around. It's not just us. I mean, there's a huge business community and it's growing. So we want to make sure that the Chamber of Commerce is the place where they can get the networking, the resources, the education, and some really incentive deals to help grow their business. So finally, I just wanted to mention that we have a few upcoming events. We have our 2021 membership drive that's happening across multiple chambers of commerce. We also have some events coming up. The Pearl River Chamber of Commerce is having a 5K fun run on April 17th. They're also having an Easter egg drive on April 3rd. The Nanuet Chamber, as George mentioned, the art show is coming up from March 19th to April 2nd. I think it was ribbon cutting you mentioned on March 20th, George?
Yes.
Keep Rockland Beautiful on April 17th. Clarkstown Outdoor Dining reopens on April 15th. Very happy to hear that. It looks like things are really starting to open up, and we hope it'll stay that way. But now we know how to pivot just in case. So outdoor dining opens up April 15th. And finally, the North Rockland Chamber of Commerce, we're doing I'm part of the North Rockland Chamber, we're doing our Stony Music Festival. This is our seventh annual music festival. Date and time to be determined. We're speaking with the town now, and we figure that'll probably be in late July or early August. So stay tuned on that. So that's all that we have for today. Did anyone, any of the chamber board want to mention anything?
Well, Tom, I don't know. I see in chat someone said the submit button didn't work. Maybe they had a question. Maria Rockwood.
Yeah. Did anybody have issues with the submit button? Apologies for that. Okay. Maria was cool, and I believe I spoke with Maria this morning when she called up. So, Maria, thanks for renewing your membership, and we're looking forward to working with you in 2021. So I believe that's all we have. Again, I want to thank everybody for being here. We've been working on this for about a month and a half, 2 months. I want to notably thank George and Susan from the Nanuet Chamber of Commerce. Also Alexandria Evans, who was very integral in putting the flyer together. And finally, I want to thank our sponsors, Dana Pest Control, FJ Datoma Construction, Yabu Fence, and most notably, Pink Home Solutions. Michael Harding and Rob, I want to thank you for sponsoring this event. We couldn't have put it on without you. We look forward to working with you for many weeks, months, years to come. So thank you for that. That is all. I guess everybody can get back to work now. But I hope you have a great rest of the week. And on behalf of the Rockland Chamber Alliance, we wish you a great week, a great month, a great quarter, and have an excellent year. Make sure that you pivot your business, your company, your organization, or cause. Pivot it to success in 2021. Take care for now.